1692, Salem, Massachusetts was home to a madhouse. In a small town, there were a closely knit pack of girls who had been seen acting in witchcraft, a crime punishable by death. These girls then went on to accuse other townspeople of being witches and casting spells as well. Many men and women went on to be hanged. One of these unfortunate people was Giles Corey. Giles was accused by the girls of witchcraft. While most other people accused of witchcraft were given a trial, Giles was a different story. He was never granted a fair trial to defend himself. Instead, he was the only person to be put to death in Salem, Massachusetts, by being crushed. He had stones placed on his body until he was crushed to death. This is all documented in Arthur Miller's The Crucible. Another similar story is Harrison Bergeron, written by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. The story Harrison Bergeron took place in 2081 in a dystopian time. The government decided to seen in both texts. In Harrison Bergeron, McCarthyism can be seen when the government put actions into place to handicap people from performing their best. In society, not everyone was meant to be equal, and the government took these rights away from the people with no other purpose than equality. Harrison, for example, was shot to death because he fought back against the government and removed his handicaps. He stood up for what he believed in and can be seen as honorable for that. A quote to further prove this is, "Now, shall we show the people the meaning of the word dance?" Harrison said this as he had taken off his handicaps and wanted to show the people what the world could really be like. By doing this, he showed immense courage and bravery as he was able to stand up for what he believed in, no matter the consequences. Overall, in the case of Harrison Bergeron, he showed the rebellious behavior as well as courage to stand up against the unfair McCarthyism community he was raised in. This can be seen similarly in the case of Giles Corey in The Crucible. When Giles was accused, he revolted against the community and refused to admit to something he knew that he was not guilty of. This made Giles stand out from the other townspeople, as they often would accuse someone else to get themselves out of it. An example of Giles being quiet and not accusing anyone else can be seen in the following quote: "I will not give you no name. I mentioned my wife's name once, and I'll burn in hell long enough for that. I stand mute." This quote shows how Giles refused to talk at the risk of putting other people in harm's way. By standing mute, he shows his courage. Giles was soon put to death, as he would not speak and let anyone else be put to death as a result of unfair accusations, otherwise known as McCarthyism. Harrison Bergeron and Giles are similar characters in their bravery to stand up against something that they do not believe to be fair, in each their own way. Giles not giving up names of those who he knows are innocent, and Harrison fighting against the handicaps and trying to show people what it's really like to be a normal human. In Arthur Miller's The Crucible, the setting plays a big role in the theme, with the time being 1692. Many people relied heavily on the church and the power of God. In this time, court systems and many legal actions were taken with the church and God in high regard. When the girls began to act up and call on witchcraft, the townspeople believed that this meant that anyone who associated with a witch or was a witch had had contact with the devil. Because of this, the court decided that once they had contact with the devil, they must be put to death. Making accusations and assumptions with no reasoning plays directly into the main theme, McCarthyism. Because the townspeople so heavily believed in the church, this caused anyone to be associated with the devil to be put to death. This contributed to Giles' overall fate. As Giles vowed to keep his mouth shut, he also dug his grave, in a sense, as to not throw anyone else under the bus. In the short story, Harrison Bergeron, the setting also plays a big part, with the story taking place in a futuristic dystopia. Many people are given handicaps. Because of these handicaps, the main character, Harrison, chooses to break out and to display it for all to see. He attempts to show everyone what it is like to live a real life. The handicaps put on most people make it so that they cannot even begin to understand what is going on. So while Harrison is making a valiant effort to break out and show the world what it is like to have no handicaps, this backfires, as those who are watching are forced to forget what he had just done every few seconds due to their own handicaps. So while Harrison was making a huge effort to show the world what he believed in, it was soon cut short by the handicap general, who quickly held a gun up to Harrison, and in the end, the setting affects Harrison's attempted message, as well as his overall fate. The setting of both Harrison Bergeron and the Crucible. The common theme appears to be rebellion and courage, mostly toward McCarthyism within the different communities. Both authors show how McCarthyism and making accusations without evidence or reasoning to be unfair. Both characters and settings help the authors show their underlying beliefs on McCarthyism and its negative impact on a community.